So you want to know everything there is to know about Tacoma? In this video, we're going to go into exactly that. What's going on, everybody? It's Justin Gazba. Do that every time. And this is living and moving to Seattle, Washington. And this is the channel where we break everything down, everything that you need to know, all the nitty gritty details, the good, the bad, the ugly, right here about living in Seattle. So if that's exactly what you're looking for, then like, subscribe, tap that thumbs up, the notification bell, and follow along here. In this video, we're gonna talk about Tacoma. Now, Tacoma on a map looks really, really easy and convenient. It's its own city, and if you're thinking about moving to the area, you've probably heard about Tacoma. No traffic, gosh, could be 45 minutes to get down to Tacoma, there and back, make that commute easy peasy. With traffic, could be 2.5 hours, right? So that's why we want to break down in this video and see maybe Tacoma's a great fit for you. Maybe you're working in the downtown Tacoma area. There are a few tech firms down there. Maybe there's also the Tide Flats. Maybe you're gonna be at JBLM, or maybe you're thinking that that's gonna be an easy commute up to Seattle. We're helping people make this move all the time. If you're thinking about making a move in the next little while to the Seattle area and you wanna know which neighborhood or area best fits your lifestyle, what you're hoping to do out here, reach out to us, give us a call, shoot us a text. We want to do a great job for you and help you find a place that really does make sense to you and is going to fit that lifestyle so that you can come out here and live your best Pacific Northwest life. In this video, like I said, we're going to talk about Tacoma, and there are a ton of pros, a ton of cons, and frankly, a lot of stereotypes about Tacoma. So I'm going to try to keep it neat and tidy. I always try to run this list, and we're going to start off with some of the negatives that that Tacoma really is kind of stereotyped as and known for. Some half-truths about the area, and things have really changed down there. Tacoma's a massive city. It's a big land mass area. There's downtown Tacoma, there's the north end of Tacoma, there's central Tacoma, but there's also northeast Tacoma, Browns Point area. There's the east side of Tacoma, which is closer to the Puyallup Indian reservation and tribe over there, where we see that's the east side of Tacoma, in the Lincoln neighborhood, which is also in East Tacoma. And then there's South Tacoma, which goes, man, South Tacoma is deep. I mean, we're talking about a massive area of land that Tacoma occupies. It's actually bigger than Seattle. Seattle's just this isthmus, kind of narrow in scope. Tacoma's much bigger than that. But when we often think about Tacoma, we think about the downtown area, we think about the Hilltop neighborhood. If you've been around a little while and you remember the show Cops, you might even think about Cops, because it was filmed kind of in that Hilltop, some of those Hilltop neighborhoods, and part of Lakewood, which Lakewood is down by South Tacoma, but its own city. So that's kind of like an overview of Tacoma, the neighborhoods, the areas, not really the neighborhoods, but the areas. North Tacoma, Northeast Tacoma, East Tacoma, South Tacoma, kind of gives you a general idea of what's there. South Tacoma is closer to JBLM. A lot of folks move up into the east side of Tacoma, the Lincoln International District, as we call it now, Lincoln neighborhood, and think that they're going to be close, commute-wise to JBLM, and that's even kind of a hassle. You probably want to be more, if you're at JBLM, you probably want to be closer to Spanaway or DuPont, or a little bit further south. So I'm going to start off with Cops. So Cops, I don't even remember they had that Bad Boys theme song, right? And they filmed all these nasty things that happen in these cities around the country. Well, one of those cities was Tacoma and Lakewood. The Hilltop neighborhood in the 80s, we saw a lot of crime in that neighborhood, and it's still really known for, if you have a boomer in your life that lives in the area, they probably remember Hilltop. It was not a pleasant place to be. A lot of crime, gang activity it was known for. You can look that up and check that out. As things started to wane, through gentrification and some other things that happened in Tacoma, and the University of Washington coming into downtown Tacoma, which is just down the hill from Hilltop. Hilltop's at the top of the hill of downtown Tacoma. It started to really change that environment out there, and a lot of that activity and those crimes and stuff that you would see on the news or on the TV show Cops moved down to Lakewood. So for a minute there in, I don't know, the mid-late 90s, you would see like, oh, this happened in Hilltop, and like, no, that's actually down in Lakewood, which is 30 minutes south. So but that is a stigma, a stereotype, something that people remember about Tacoma, and it gets a bad rap continued to this day because of that activity. But now those neighborhoods, some beautiful turn of the century homes in Hilltop, and great access to the theater district and downtown Tacoma and the University of Washington, Tacoma down there. So really, really great, pretty great neighborhood actually. And then good access to 705 takes you to I-5, get north or south on I-5, whichever direction you need to go. So that's kind of that Hilltop neighborhood, those stigmas that are associated with it. It really just isn't that anymore, even though when you talk to people, they will probably bring up stuff like that. The second most common thing that people bring up about Tacoma is the Tacoma Aroma. Now, it rhymes, which means it's terrible, and it also means that people know about it, right? Because it has been a thing forever and ever and ever. Generations of people, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. The Tacoma Aroma is real, and what it stems from is Tacoma has a massive port. The port of Tacoma is huge. And there is some facilities down there from the logging industry that I guess my understanding is, and somebody could probably Google this or check it out or correct me down in the comments, let me know if I've got this wrong. But my understanding is that it's part of the milling system. Somehow there's a wood alcohol created, and that gets out into the air, and it smells quite pungent. Smells something like sauerkraut, but not really, because it doesn't. It's gross. So what happens is that smell comes out of the port, and because the wind comes into the port, it typically blows that smell eastward over towards East Tacoma, close to what's the name of that casino? The Emerald Queen Casino in East Tacoma. And sometimes even upwards into the Lincoln neighborhood there, and that's where it's most consistent. Is you'll get that coming through. Sometimes the winds change, and you'll get that into the north end and Ruston, or depending on the winds, it'll go to the other side of Commencement Bay, and it'll be in northeast Tacoma, your Browns Point kind of area. So the number two thing that people always talk about, if they don't hit on Hilltop, they're going to hit on the Tacoma Aroma, and those are the two big things that stand out. Everybody's got something to say about both of those. If you can handle that and it makes sense, maybe Tacoma's a good spot for you. Let's talk about some of the pros of Tacoma. On the east side, East Tacoma, there are some great war era 40s, 50s, and 60s built homes with decent sized lots. It's all streets and alleys, decent size. You can find a good garage, fairly inexpensive for the market, depending on where you're coming from. But as you move from East Tacoma over I-5 into central Tacoma, things start to pick up and get a little bit more expensive. And then as you move down past Sprague, they get even more expensive as you move downtown. But the real, expensive part of Tacoma, as it were, is going to be your north end Tacoma, your Proctor district, your Ruston Way, or Ruston area, and what they call the West End. The West End is just kind of over by Pearl Street, runs north to south. And there is Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium at the tip of that little peninsula, with a ferry terminal that'll take you out to Vashon Island if you want to go out there. So let's talk about the West End, Proctor, and the North End. This is really where you're going to find a lot of the more stately homes. Obviously, there's still some apartment buildings and some other stuff. It's just like any city would have. But your North End Tacoma is kind of the preeminent neighborhood of the Tacoma area, with the Proctor district being a cute little kind of downtown walkable bars, restaurants, shops, coffee shops, all that kind of stuff right there in the Proctor district, which is kind of a hub, some great grocery stores there as well. And if you're within 15 minutes of that area, you're in a pretty great spot. That's a pretty great location. Proctor is one of those neighborhoods that people go to hang out and go take a look at. So Proctor on the north end. The other north end kind of area is going to be your Ruston and your Ruston Way. There's great kind of walking along Commencement Bay down there. It's a couple of parks and places to hang out. And then your Old Town neighborhood. Old Town has Old Town Tacoma. On your way out to North Tacoma has bars, restaurants, condos, views of the water, and all that stuff. That's different than downtown Tacoma. So those kind of three, downtown Tacoma, the Old Town Tacoma, and your North End Proctor district are kind of your as you move kind of west and north. You start to get into more affluent neighborhoods that way. So really great areas out there. Now, if you're in South Tacoma is one of those neighborhoods that has mixed use zoning, has a lot of warehouses, a lot of turn of the century homes and 40s home and war era homes out there. It's a different mix. You'll find, I've heard people tell me that it reminds them of the old Ballard before Ballard and Seattle started to turn into the townhouse, mecca that it is becoming, with those, local diners. There's bars and, local bars. There's breweries that are popping up down there in that mixed use space. And that's going to be closer, that South Tacoma is going to be a little bit closer if you're like, I always talk about JBLM, the Joint Base Lewis McChord Air Force Base in Fort Lewis, because it is such a huge draw for people that are coming out to that duty station, or they have different orders that they're living out there. A lot of folks will rent off base and or buy homes off base so that they can be close to work but also have a home for their family. American Lake and Lakewood and that kind of area a little bit further south is a popular area for that. And even further out east towards Spanaway becomes an area. But if you're thinking about Tacoma and you're a service member, you may be coming out thinking about, hey, can I live in Tacoma? Because Tacoma is the bigger city of the area. Where does it make sense to live? What neighborhoods are going to best, school districts for my kids? And what are the things are going to look like for my everyday life? Moving from, doing that commute from Tacoma really is going to, you really got to think about how that traffic works, because just as a caveat, right, the traffic at JBLM is the worst, right? It's just very difficult. You might actually be able to live a little bit further west, University Place, or Steilacoom, and have a better commute than you would from up north in Tacoma. So really quick while I'm on the topic, right, if you're coming out this way for that transfer, think about DuPont, think about Steilacoom, think about Spanaway, Lakewood. Those are all going to be places that might be a little bit closer and a little bit easier for you to get to work at JBLM than Tacoma or North Tacoma or East Tacoma. Now, insofar as weighing the pros and cons, it's a lifestyle choice, right? So like, I would never really recommend anybody make that commute from Tacoma to Seattle, but a lot of people do it. I actually have some folks that live on the north end. They bought a nice house on the north end, and they just choose to make that commute up to Seattle. I can't remember if they get if they work 410s or if they have a little bit of work from home, but the bang for your buck for what you get in so far as a yard or a view or a home in Tacoma versus what it would take, even if you were just to move, into Federal Way or Burien, let alone Seattle. There's a tremendous amount of bang for your buck in Tacoma in that regard, right? If you're going to make that Seattle money and live in Tacoma, it really can be a benefit if that fits your lifestyle. Maybe you've got, you know, one of those electric cars, so you're not worried too much about gas, or you're able to telecommute, work from home kind of thing. Or maybe you just like kicking it in you got a really nice car and you love listening to podcasts and it doesn't hurt your feelings to commute 45 minutes, an hour and a half, right? So that could be a real benefit depending on what you're doing. And Tacoma affords a lot of the same lifestyle, access to mountains, access to water, sailing. It's a little closer to Westport, right? So if you surf, you can get out there a little faster. And they still have some good yacht clubs and sailboat clubs where you can be a member and you don't have to own a boat, but you can go sailing. Tacoma Yacht Club, I think, is one that runs that way. And then so it really can be a tremendous benefit. It's a little closer to Mount Rainier, but not, I mean, if you're going out to Mount Rainier a lot, it's negligible, that 45 minutes, hour closer. It's further away from Issaquah, the Issaquah Alps, and Mount Si or Mailbox or any of those hikes, right? So if you're doing that all the time for training or whatever, you're probably going to want to find a different hike to get your training weight up. So, you know, really, what's up with Tacoma? What's going on down there? It's a great city. It's got some pros and cons. The aroma of Tacoma, the stigma of Hilltop. But the benefits of Proctor and Old Town really do, I think, outweigh those negatives. The University of Tacoma, the brewery blocks, and everything that they're doing downtown, it is really a flourishing city, and it has a great waterfront. It's a lifestyle choice, right? So it is further away from Seattle. It's an awful commute. Personal opinion, I wouldn't really want to do that commute. You're better off, you know, maybe Incarnation or something, I don't know, on the east side, you know, doing that maybe, I don't know. And then I think that what a lot of people, when they come out this way and they think about Tacoma and they think about JBLM, they think it's closer in proximity and easier to get to. And I got to tell you, you know, reach out to some folks and ask them what their commute is like, because honestly, I don't think going down south to JBLM is and living in Tacoma is doing you any real favors. It's kind of the same commute as you would take if you were gonna go up to Seattle. If you're thinking about making the move and you have more questions about Tacoma, you want to know more about, you know, where to get a great sandwich, you know, the MSM Deli, you want to hit up Peaks and Pints and get a beer out there in Proctor, or, you know, you want to go to Ducky's in South Tacoma. I don't even know if Ducky's is still open. But reach out, we'll get you squared away. It's been years since I've been down there. Really appreciate you guys checking this video out. We've got a great team that can help you if you're thinking about making the move. If you don't reach out, we can't help you. So really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, talk to you.